Alright everyone, welcome back. So today is the beginning of our 2024 reviews today of each team that missed the playoffs. Eventually teams that made the playoffs got knocked out, all that good stuff. We have the San Jose Sharks to start out here today. So we're going to go from the bottom of the standings all the way up to the team that missed the playoffs just barely, which I think is St. Louis. And then we will go from the teams that were eliminated and go from there. So San Jose was the worst team in the NHL this year. Their general manager was Mike Grier. Their coach during the season was David Quinn. I know, obviously, yesterday he got fired, which I thought was funny. But that was when I planned to make this video. But regardless, San Jose had themselves a pretty awful year. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts to it. But they went 19-54-9 for 47 points, and they're 32nd in the NHL. Before I get into the other stats that you see on the screen right now, I just want to say that this was expected. This wasn't a season that we didn't really see come out of nowhere. We really expected for the Sharks to be this bad. So I'm not too concerned in regards to, is this like the direction they're supposed to be in? Yes, they're supposed to be this bad this year. And they're going to be better next year, but they probably will be really bad next year as well. So just something to expect. They have a 2.87 points percentage, which is ranked 32nd, obviously. When you're the worst team in the NHL, you obviously have a really bad points percentage. In terms of other stats, you have scored 181 goals and let in 331 for a minus 150 difference. They average 2.2 goals for per game, which is 31st, and they let in 3.98 goals against per game, which is 32nd, or the most goals allowed per game. So, again, the goals against are pretty brutal. They usually are brutal when it comes to really bad teams. In terms of home and away records, they went 11-25-5 at home, and they were 8-29-4 on the road. So, yeah, they only had 8 road wins. I think they're actually, they're second last for that. I think Chicago actually holds the least amount of road wins this season. They have a 20.2 power play percentage, which is ranked 21st. For some reason, their power play is not that bad. And then you have a 75.4 penalty kill percentage, which is ranked 28th. So both of them are pretty bad, but they're not the worst. I guess that's something you can live by. At least your power play and penalty kill were not the worst. I know the Flyers' power play was the worst, but we'll get into that in another video. And I do want to mention that in my TikTok power rankings, I do want to throw this in here, they averaged a 7.59, which ranks 31st amongst all the teams in my power rankings for the average of the season. So I thought I'd throw that in there for the TikTok fans. I know not a lot of people watch the TikTok kind of things, but if you do, if you want to, go ahead. So those are all the team stats that I want to get into, and the team stats are usually pretty terrible. Now, when you're looking at a really bad team like San Jose, there's always some players that do much better than what they were expected to be, and that was Mikael Granlund this year. Mikael Granlund really kind of rejuvenated himself with the Sharks. There were actually a few players who did that this year. Granlund was 69 games played, 12 goals, 48 assists for 60 points. Granlund had himself a awesome season, 60-point scorer. I'd say that's a success for a guy like him. Somebody who was not a great player in Pittsburgh in the years prior, got traded to the Sharks in the offseason, and now he looks like that effective scorer that we envisioned him to be. So I think that Granlund's had a good season in San Jose. Second in scoring is William Eklund. Eklund's also had a very good season too. 80 games played, 16 goals, 29 assists for 45 points. That's obviously a really good spark in the right direction because Eklund is your guy that you want to build the core around. You want to start with Eklund, and you're building guys with like Will Smith, Quentin Musty, maybe Macklin Celebrini, but you definitely have guys in the pipeline that you're building around Eklund. And to see him have a pretty solid season this year, I'd say that definitely exceeds expectations. Third in scoring is Fabian Zetterlund. Zetterlund with 82 games played, 24 goals, 20 assists for 44 points. Zetterlund's kind of like Eklund, kind of had the same stat line there. Had another pretty solid season for the Sharks. And I think that you want to build the core around those guys. They got Zetterlund in the Timo Meier deal a few years back. So now essentially you want to build the core around those two players. And Zetterlund, the guy who wasn't looked at as much before he came to San Jose last trade deadline, he's looked pretty good this year. So I think that's an expectation you should be pretty proud of. And then it kind of falls off a little bit. There's some guys who have been okay, but those are the 3 players who I would say had pretty good seasons. You look at Filip Zadina. Zadina with 72 games played, 13 goals, 10 assists for 23 points. Since Detroit, he's had himself pretty disappointing years. I guess 23 points is better than nothing. But in terms of where he was drafted, yeah, that's not looking too great when you look at Zadina. So definitely something there that I do want to just throw in there because yeah, it was a pretty brutal. It's been a pretty brutal career so far for Zadina. Same with Mike Hoffman. Hoffman didn't have that good of a season. We figured that Hoffman would be way better. He wasn't this year. Hoffman with 66 games played, 10 goals, 13 assists for 23 points. So essentially the same stat line there as Zadina. The numbers weren't great. I figured the numbers out of Hoffman would be better. I figured he would at least score maybe 40 points. But nope, not this time. The expectation I've heard is that they are going to let Mike Hoffman walk to free agency. So I will keep that in mind as I go down the list here and say the other guys. Next up, you got Mario Ferraro. Ferraro with 78 games played, 3 goals, 18 assists for 21 points. Mario Ferraro has been a solid defenseman. I think that he has really bad numbers, but I think he should get more credit for what he's done with the Sharks. I definitely think that's of note. 7th in scoring is Jan Rutta. Rutta with 69 games played, 5 goals, 14 assists for 19 points. So your 7th leading scorer has 19 points. Yeah, that's not fun. But yeah, Rutta was acquired in the Karlsson deal. I guess he's been okay since he's come over. I really can't speak for much. But honestly, that defensive core for the San Jose Sharks has, all in all, not been good. So I think that the expectation is that, yeah, that's that. You got Luke Kunin, 8th in scoring, 77 games played, 11 goals, 7 assists for 18 points. Kunin's had an all right year. I figure we see a better season out of Kunin, but I guess I'll take the 18 points. And then the final 2 players are actually deadline acquisitions who were traded to the Sharks midway through the year. One of them is Calen Addison. Addison was 72 games played, 1 goal, 16 assists for 17 points. And then you got Klim Kostin, 52 games played, 8 goals, 6 assists for 14 points. And those are your top 10 leading scorers for this team. So, yeah, that is outside of the top 3, it's pretty bad. It really is pretty bad. And that shows that this should be the worst of it. It really should be. I think that you look at the guys that are coming up in the pipeline, like there were a lot of players that played out this year for San Jose, a lot of guys that not a lot of people will know, but it definitely shows that they are making steps in the right direction to, bring in some more younger players. Like, I think there's a chance that Will Smith comes in next year. You'll get a full season of Colin Graf. If Celebrini gets drafted by this team, he'll come over. If not, you'll get a really solid pick in this coming draft. So the core is going to get better. This is the worst of it. And I've said that a lot of times in this video, and I'll say it a lot of times more because we're far from being done. But this is the worst of it. It is. So in terms of goaltending was a little bit weird this year. You have Mackenzie Blackwood as your main starter. Blackwood with 44 games played, a 10-25-4 record, a 3.45 goals against average, and a .899 save percentage. So Blackwood was one of the players who stayed in San Jose the full year through. I would say a .899 for a team that allowed 331 goals, had the most goals against per game. I'd say just below a .900 is very good. I would. And especially early on, too. There were times where Blackwood kept them in games. Like I remember when they played my Philadelphia Flyers, in that 2-1 win they had, Blackwood was probably the sole reason why they won that game. Not going to lie. Blackwood was probably the sole reason why they won that game. So, and honestly, he deserved to get a shutout. But that's another topic for another time. But Mackenzie Blackwood definitely kind of rejuvenated himself here, even though he only had 10 wins. Like, he really did rejuvenate himself with the Sharks this year. Next up then is 2 players who were traded midway through the year. You got Vitek Vanacek. Vanacek, some of these numbers with the Devils. I just figured I'd put his full season stats in here, but he had 32 games played, 17, 9, and 3, a 3.18 goals against average, and a .890 save percentage. He was traded over to San Jose at the trade deadline. So, I don't know what's more concerning. The fact that Vanacek has a worse save percentage than Blackwood, and he played on a better team. Like, that feels a little concerning to me, but honestly, it's kind of funny to think that these were two former New Jersey Devils goaltenders who were looked at as one point to be the next tandem for this team, and now they're banished to the Dark Realm. I thought that was kind of funny, and the Dark Realm being San Jose, but I do think that next year, them working together in a tandem will make things a lot better. Obviously, we have a full offseason ahead, and I might be wrong. There might be some other guys that get moved, but I really do, I do think that that Vanacek and Blackwood could be a good pairing. So then you have Devin Cooley. Cooley was a player who came in at the trade deadline. Actually played a couple games down the stretch for San Jose. He played 6 games, went 2-3-1, had a 4.98 goals against average and a .870 save percentage. As I said, he was traded to the Sharks at the trade deadline. So Cooley's best known this year for, I think he stopped with something like 42 or 47 shots. And then he went out and said that it doesn't matter, we're all going to die anyways. It makes a lot of sense when you're wearing this jersey, especially with how bad they were this year. So, yeah, it's crazy because there were a lot of arguments this year that some people thought that the best AHL team, the Hershey Bears, could beat the Sharks. Like that was what people were saying, and I'm honestly not against that. I feel like that's very possible. I think there's actually a few teams that could beat the San Jose Sharks in the American Hockey League. So, yeah, that's definitely something you could look at there, but again, this is the worst of it. This is the worst of what they've gone through. Things will get better next year. So, in terms of guys who midway through the season went in and out, I want to look at this because I didn't want to go through each trade at the trade deadline because I feel like I would be here for like 40 minutes. I don't want to have to go in depth with every trade. So I kind of just like synthesized it and I pretty much just made it like a short summary. So, the guys who came in this offseason from the deadline, you got Kalen Addison, Jack Studnicka, prospect Jack Thompson, Klim Kostin, Devin Cooley, Vitek Vanacek, prospect David Edstrom, a first-round pick, a third-round pick, a fifth-round pick, and 2 seventh-round picks. Those were picks that came in. In terms of guys who left, you had Adam Raska, Nicholas Cizek, Anthony Duclair, Radek Simek, Nikita Okichuk, Kaapo Kähkönen, Tomas Hertl, and a third, a fifth, a sixth, and 2 sevenths. So, essentially, it feels like they got a lot more back than they traded away. And I feel like that's what you want if you're San Jose. You definitely want to move some of these guys out. I do think, though, that guys like Jack Thompson, guys like David Edstrom, there's a chance that they could play in the NHL next year. There's a good chance. Now, do I think they will? Probably not. I think they start out with the Barracuda. I think that Thompson is a very solid defensive prospect. Edstrom's not like an amazing level prospect, but he's still a pretty good prospect. So I think that's got to be something you keep in mind. And then obviously the 2 first-round picks they have this year, you're going to be able to use those too. And the guys they gave up to, like Duclair, they got rid of him. That was what they wanted to do. They got rid of the contract in Hertl, which I understand that you want to make the argument that the trade retention slots are taken up. I understand that, but at the same time, I think they made the right move when it came to doing that. So, yeah, those are the guys who haven't moved out, moved in, all that good stuff. Those are the stats. That is it for this year. I want to put that behind us. I got a few things to talk about of the offseason before I can let you guys go. So, you got draft picks, the draft capital in this coming draft. You have 2 first-round picks, 1 from Pittsburgh. You got 2 second-round picks. You got 1 third-round pick. You got a 4th. You got 2 fifths. You got no 6th-round pick, but then you got a 7th-round pick. So, they have a lot of capital. They most importantly have 5 picks in the first round. I think there's a chance, too, that if they see something that's fit, they might make another trade in the offseason. There's a good chance that San Jose will do that. But with Mike Grier and the Sharks, it's all about building this from the ground up now. It's all about building this team up from that overall perspective. So I like what they're building. I like what they're doing, and hopefully it keeps going that way. So in terms of free agency, you got UFAs and RFAs here. You got, for the UFA column, Kevin Labanc, Mike Hoffman, Alex Barabanov, Justin Bailey, Alex Carpenter, Josh McDonald, and Devin Cooley. So I would imagine that I think what I heard is Kevin Labanc, Mike Hoffman, and Barabanov are all gone. All 3 of those guys are gone. I think that in terms, I think I even heard that like that's confirmed. I think they are going to let go of those players. So unless there's something happens between then and July 1st, I think those guys are gone. In terms of everyone else, I really don't know. I think they could keep Cooley. I think they might keep some of the other guys just to fill roster spots or just have depth. But honestly, I I really don't know. It's kind of something that it's night and day, to be honest. Your RFA list, you got Philip Zadina, Luke Kunin, Thomas Bordelot, Ty Emberson, Jack Studnicka, Henry Thrun, and Caitlin Addison. I would imagine they try and keep most of those guys. Maybe they let go of Ty Emberson, but I would imagine that they keep most of those guys. But obviously, we'll see what the plan is for San Jose. But I think when you're looking in terms of next year, right now, they will be better. They will be. I think Will Smith may come over. If Logan Couture can also... This is something that I missed out on. If Logan Couture can have a full season, I think they will be much better. Because I feel like with Couture, the team looks better. They play better. I think that definitely they could for sure have a much better year if Logan Couture is in the lineup. So anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below on the San Jose Sharks this season. Let me know what you guys think about them and what the offseason could look like. But regardless, thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe down below. I would greatly appreciate it. We got some more content coming up soon in regards to these teams. But regardless, thank you all for watching. Next up is Chicago, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.